So UFC 302 just ended in one of the most boring cards of the year. This was the pinnacle of a decision fest. Every single fighter on the card struggled to get a finish outside Islam Makhachev, Kevin Holland, and Jailton, Almeida of all people. So with that being said, I'm going to go through the majority of the card and give a nice little recap to the whole thing. I'm trying to be a better YouTuber. I want to be more active, turn a new leaf. I want this channel to blow up. So guess what? We got to stay active and we got to put out content for you guys because you guys deserve it. So thank you guys, and let's get into this recap. Now, I know we all want to talk about the main event and the co-main event, but I want to dive into the early prelims just really quickly. Let's just go through, skim through some of these fights, get them over with, because again, these fights weren't the most entertaining. Most of them were pretty boring, but we have to do a recap for the most part. So basically, if you watched the early prelims, you were bored. Besides Bassil Hafez versus Mickey Gall. Now, people in my chat were saying that this fight was potentially fight of the year. I didn't really see that. I missed this fight going live. I kind of skipped this fight, but I went back and rewatched it a little bit. This fight was fun. It was a good fight. Bassil Hafez maybe is not as good as we thought he was. I picked Bassil Hafez to win this fight because I thought he was on gear. He had a close fight with JDM, which is a top-ranked welterweight right now. I thought Mickey Gall didn't deserve to be in the UFC. 7-6. Why is Mike Perry cut, but Mickey Gall still allowed to be in the UFC? We don't know. Bassil Hafez, to me, is just not a top-ranked welterweight at this point. I know he had a close fight with JDM, like I mentioned before, but I think that was more on JDM's IQ than it was on Bassil Hafez. I do think he can get some wins in the UFC, but do I see him going far? I don't, but the tail of this tape was pretty much Bassil Hafez is on gear, and he's stronger, and he is more powerful, and he isn't as technical as Mickey Gall, but he is better than Mickey Gall. Hafez is in better shape than Mickey Gall. He's more powerful. He can throw a Superman punch and land it on the chin of Mickey Gall and kind of rock him for a moment. That pretty much is the tail of the tape. Bassil Hafez is just more powerful than Mickey Gall and more athletic, and that pretty much carried him out throughout this fight. Mickey Gall, get him out of the UFC. He's trash. He should be gone. Should have been cut 3-4 fights ago at this point. I wouldn't have minded if Mickey Gall got cut after he lost to Mike Mallet. Mike Mallet proved to us that he's not a top-ranked welterweight as well. So, I mean, Bassil Hafez beating Mickey Gall is kind of a free win for him. Good job. He won, got the job done, got his money. I don't see the UFC getting behind Bassil Hafez anytime soon, but you know what? He's athletic. He looks good. He has a good physique. That's really about it. Yeah. Now, moving on to the prelims, if you did watch the prelims as well, Jake Matthews versus Philip Rowe. I think this is a pretty decent fight. Jake Matthews is really good on the inside, and Philip Rowe, to me, is just mediocre. He had the reach advantage over Jake Matthews, kind of a grappling advantage as well. He was doing all these grappling tournaments with Craig Jones and I think Gordon Ryan at one point. He was losing them, don't get me wrong, but doing all these grappling tournaments and you're still getting out-grappled in the UFC. I know he's working on it, but it's not doing him too many favors right now. He can definitely be the guy in the UFC who is not that good. Like, I think Philip Rowe is mid-level UFC, not ranked, like middle of the unranked category kind of guys. While with Jake Matthews, when he fought Andre Fialho, I was really high on him. I thought he would hit the rankings. He's only fought tough competition, so I have cooled off on Jake Matthews a little bit, but I think he is kind of a outside the rankings kind of fighter. I think he can get close to that, and I think with this fight, he proved that he is. He pretty much endured a tough first round versus Philip Rowe, then came out in the second and third round, got the job done, was able to have control time when he needed to, was able to land shots on the feet when he needed to. His combinations were way better than Philip Rowe. Philip Rowe was more of a 1-2 kind of fighter with his range, while Jake Matthews was a 1-2-3-4 kind of fighter. Again, I love Jake Matthews' combinations. It's just when he's backed up against the fence or against the cage, he is kind of open to getting hit a lot, which does worry me. That's why he lost to Matthew Semelsberger, because he just couldn't defend when he's against the cage, and he got dropped 3 times in that fight. Jake Matthews is good, just that his chin lets him down a little bit, and sometimes when he fights rangier opponents, he just can't keep up like how he did against Michael Morales. I like Jake Matthews again, but we'll see where he goes from here. Now, moving on, if you watched Grant Dawson versus Joe Zaleski, you were bored the entire time. This was a boring fight. It was a stupid fight. This was Grant Dawson just full guard camping Joe Zaleski for the entire fight. It stunk up the entire arena. You're not getting paid any money, man. I hate to break it to you, bro, but you're not getting pushed by the UFC. If fighters fight like this, they're just not going to get that fighter pay they so want desperately. It's just not going to happen. When you go out there and you full guard camp for 15 minutes, nobody's going to push you. You're not getting a bonus. You're not getting a performance of the night. You're not getting anything. All you're getting from this is just a win on your record and your base pay, which is fine. He gets his money, but he's not getting anything after that. The UFC is not going to offer you a top-ranked matchup or somebody that's a good matchup for you because they want you to lose. Maybe you can beat him, but you might get chinned as well. We'll see what happens with Grant Dawson. Joe Zaleski, stop. Good luck, man, in the future, dog. I don't know what you're going to do. You went out there and got full guard camped by Grant Dawson for 3 rounds. It is what it is. You had pretty much no get-ups. You just moved around in full guard the entire time. So cut him. Now, Jailton Almeida versus Alexander Romanov. If you got to this fight, you're probably already asleep, so you might have missed it. But guess what? Jailton Almeida gets a finish. I don't think you, me, or anybody else could bear 15 minutes of Jailton Almeida full mount camping on Alexander Romanov. That would have been terrible. Him just tripping him over and over and over again. That would have been unbearable to watch. But you know what? He gets a finish, which is all we need from Jailton Almeida. I don't like Jailton Almeida, if I'm being honest with you. I think he's boring. I think his fight versus Derek Lewis was a disgrace to the sport of MMA. If you have full mount for the majority of the round and you can't finish somebody, you deserve to get cut. Take him to PFL. I'm still on that train for Jailton Almeida, and it's not because he isn't talented enough. I think Jailton Almeida is talented for a heavyweight, which is not actually a compliment. It's just kind of like, yeah, you're better than the fat guys at heavyweight. So maybe it can be a compliment. I don't know, but Jailton Almeida gets it done versus Romanov. Romanov is fat. He doesn't really train his body. He has barely any muscle mass. He gasses. Not that good, and he loses to Jailton Almeida because he actually knows how to be in shape. So congratulations to Jailton Almeida. You have earned one more UFC fight before you are cut and sent to PFL. If you can get more finishes in the future, I might come around and like you again. But as of right now, Jailton Almeida, you did a good job. You didn't make me endure 15 minutes of you fighting. You got the first finish on the card. So thank you, Jailton Almeida. And yeah, it's not a good fight. Now, Cesar Almeida versus Roman Kopylov. This fight was actually pretty good in the first round, but in the second and third, it kind of became a Kopylov grappling fest. Now, you probably were bored in that second and third round, but the first round was pretty entertaining. It was mainly them striking. Kopylov looked good. Almeida looked good. I thought Kopylov would have a tougher first round versus Almeida. I thought he would be the one getting dropped, but turns out Kopylov is really good on the feet, but he just doesn't have a good enough gas tank. He was gassing out in that second and third round, was able to secure takedowns when he needed to. Cesar Almeida, being the kickboxing background guy, just didn't have the defense to stuff takedowns from Roman Kopylov. That's pretty much the whole story of this fight. Kopylov had to resort to Kopylov-Edov, and Almeida can't defend takedowns. There were some pretty iffy moments for Kopylov on the feet in that third round, but nevertheless, he found the takedowns when he needed to, got down Cesar Almeida, controlled him. Again, pretty boring in the third round and the second round, but you know what? Kopylov gets a win. I like Kopylov. I'm a Kopylov enjoyer. I'm happy when he wins, but in the future, needs to fix that gas tank. Start doing some more cardio, man. You got to fix that. It wasn't that high of a pace in the first round. He needs to fix that gas tank or else it's going to be issues for him in the future. I still believe that any good grappler probably does beat Kopylov, but any striker he has a chance with, and maybe we can see him succeed in the future. 33 years old, I believe, so not much time left for Kopylov, so he needs to get wins now. Now, the main card was pretty disappointing, if I'm being honest with you. Some of these fighters didn't belong to be on the main card. Niko Price, Alex Morono, these guys didn't deserve to be on a UFC main card. This fight looked like it was two unranked people making their debut on the regional scene. I swear to God, this looked like a very entry-level MMA fight. It looked very, very low level, and yet it was on a main card of a pay-per-view. And I know Morono's style isn't the most flashy or good, but typically he shows good striking and he has good cardio, but he lacked both of that in this fight. I kid you not, Morono was throwing spinning back fists for no reason. He gassed out in that third round. Niko Price had no power on his shots. He was throwing the most untechnical hooks I've ever seen. He was just diving in with his head forward and getting hit by Morono, but Morono has no good striking technique to where he could hurt Niko Price. It was a complete low-level fest of a fight. It was hard to watch. It wasn't even exciting either. Sometimes these low-level MMA fights can sometimes turn into who can knock down who fest, and they can have some entertainment to them, but this one just didn't have it. It had none of that, actually. Honestly, this felt like I could go to my local MMA regional promotion and watch a fight there and see the same level of skill that these two showed. It was not good, but you know what? Niko Price wins. Alex Morono gasses in the third round, can't win, and his gas tank, which was his strength, is now his weakness. You can't predict that. I got this pick wrong. It is what it is. I went like 9-3 on the card, so it is what it is, man. Randy Brown versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos also happened. This fight wasn't really much. The ref in this fight was actually abysmal. There was, I think, 3 times in this fight where Randy Brown obviously eye-poked dos Santos, and the ref didn't stop the fight. He told the Santos to keep going. That was abysmal. It was terrible. I think Jason Herzog had to go and talk to the ref in between rounds. That ref needs to take a course in how to ref an MMA fight, because that was terrible to watch. You're basically letting Randy Brown cheat for free, and that shouldn't be allowed in the MMA scene or any sort of MMA fight. But overall, Randy Brown was better than Dos Santos. He had the range advantage. He used that to pretty much win this fight. Has some good combinations. Randy Brown can be slick at times, but he does worry me with his chin and his takedown defense. Dos Santos had his back several times in this fight, but you know what? Randy Brown was better. He scrambled out of positions. He did damage when he needed to, got the job done. Again, not the most entertaining fight, another boring one. It is what it is, man. Now moving on to the feature fight, Kevin Holland versus Michal Olekseiczuk. Kevin Holland gets it done. Now, this fight wasn't that long. Michal Olekseiczuk actually ended up dropping Kevin Holland in the first round with an overhand left. He then followed up to the ground with Kevin Holland, got put in an arm bar, and got his arm broken. Good performance from Kevin Holland. Great win. He did get dropped, though, but Michal Olekseiczuk is a tough son of a bitch. I think Michal was in the arm bar for at least 20 seconds before his arm got broken and the ref had to eventually call it off. So I do respect Michal Olekseiczuk for not tapping, but I don't think that was worth it. I think at some point, if you're in a joint lock, you have to tap to those. It's just not worth getting your leg, arm broken. Now you're out for 6 months and it might not heal correctly and things are just awful for you going forward in your career. If it's a blood choke, don't tap all day. You just go out cold. You'll wake up in 30 seconds. You'll be all right. But I think any joint locks, man, you might have to tap to that. It's just not worth getting your leg, arm snapped, and now you're out for so long. So respect to Michal for not tapping, but I think he should have tapped. It would have been way better for him. Kevin Holland in the post-fight interview said that he's a good gatekeeper, or the best gatekeeper at 170 or whatever. Terrible mindset. I don't like anybody being proud of being a gatekeeper. That's pretty cringe. I will not be picking Kevin Holland a lot going forward. I'll pick him in some matchups, but not a lot of them. Again, his mindset just really isn't there for me for a contender at middleweight or welterweight, whatever he fights at next. I guess Kevin Holland is content with being a top 15, top 10 to 15 ranked guy, and that's really about it. Maybe even unranked. So he said he wants to fight up or down. He doesn't care. So let's not waste any time on Kevin Holland and give him a unranked top contender at middleweight or welterweight. I don't care. If this guy wants to be the best gatekeeper of all time, then make him that. I don't give a shit. Kevin Holland, it's a bad mindset, but it is what it is. You won. Kevin Holland, thank you for getting my pick right. That's about it. I'm moving on to the co-main event. Whatever ref scored this fight for Paulo Costa needs to get his eyes checked, needs to be fired from the sport and never allowed to judge a fight ever again. There's no way you can justify Paulo Costa 49-46 in this fight. That is an abysmal scorecard. That is rigged. I said this in my full card prediction video. The UFC does not like Sean Strickland. They want him to lose. They want Paulo Costa to win. Strickland is bad for business. So the UFC paid a judge to rig this fight for Paulo Costa so they can justify not giving him a title shot if he won a split decision or even lost that fight. This fight wasn't really that close. Let's be real here. Paulo Costa had, I think, one of the worst game plans versus Sean Strickland. Let's just back up and throw leg kicks for 5 rounds versus this guy who pretty much dismantled Israel Adesanya with his defensive ability on the feet. But no, Paulo Costa thinks he's better than Adesanya on the feet after he got knocked out by him. I don't understand, Paulo Costa. You had your best success in the UFC when you were pressuring forward, when you were walking people down and just throwing whatever you wanted at them. But no, when it comes to fighting actual good technical strikers at middleweight, you want to sit on the back foot and just throw leg kicks like a Thiago Santos that was at the end of his career. Sean Strickland was jabbing Paulo Costa all day. He was front kicking people in the body all day. He was avoiding the shots of Paulo Costa all day. Maybe you can give round 5 to Paulo Costa, but that is literally it. And maybe not even round 5 because he did get dropped by a head kick from Sean Strickland. So that round arguably could go to Strickland as well. I had it 50-45 on my scorecard. I don't mind any other scorecard besides 49-46 Paulo Costa. So with that being said, Strickland wins. This fight wasn't a bad fight by any means, but it wasn't really that entertaining. I enjoyed watching this fight. It wasn't a total snooze fest. It could keep me awake, but it was like taking a melatonin before you go to bed. Eventually, you're going to fall asleep if it keeps going on long enough. Again, it wasn't the most boring fight in the world, but the name value, I think, kept me awake for most of the time. Strickland wins. I think he fights DDP next. I think he has well earned a title shot. He deserves to fight for the belt next. Will he? I don't know. The UFC might give Adesanya the next title shot. We'll see what happens with that. And when it comes to Paulo Costa, your secret juice ain't working, little bro. You can have a good physique, but If you're not winning fights, you're not winning fights. A physique cannot win you fights in the UFC. I don't care how good you look. You have to be able to fight somebody and fix your style, man. Go back to the brawler Costa who fought Romero, and you might win some fights in the UFC again. Now, moving on to the main topic, the main course, the entree of this video, we have the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, man, probably needs to retire, but he gave it one hell of a fight. I was pretty neutral for this matchup. I'm not a Makhachev fan. I'm not a Poirier fan. Actually, I dislike them both, but I did want Poirier to win, and he went out there and he had a good showing. He might have lost every single round in my opinion, but you know what? He went out there, he stuffed the takedowns, and he gave us a feeling of hope. There were times in this fight where I was thinking Dustin Poirier can probably turn this around. If he can stuff one more takedown and land a good shot on the feet, Islam might be done. He might get hurt. He might be able to finish Islam. Islam was kind of gassing a little bit in that 5th round. That was probably Poirier's best chance to win. Islam was getting tired. He was starting to gas a little bit. He had a big cut over his forehead from Poirier's elbow. Dustin Poirier was stuffing the takedowns quick. He was looking good. There was a big chance in that 5th round for Poirier to win this fight, and it would have been crazy if he did, but Islam's good. Gets a ankle pick takedown. He does some different shit, and this is why he's a good grappler. Was able to ankle pick Poirier down, get on top of Poirier, and then find the Darce choke in that 5th round. He gets it done. He would have won by decision anyways. It sucks for Poirier. He probably retires after this, but I'm proud of him, man. I think he went out there, and I was expecting him to lose in the 1st round. I thought he would get dominated by Islam Makhachev. And to be fair, in that 1st round, I was thinking it might have been over for Dustin Poirier. But you know what? He survives that 1st round, comes out in the 2nd and does well. And for the majority of the fight, he does well. But he just can't defend the takedowns, man. It's just hard. Islam just knows how to trip people down. He just knows how to find your weak point when it comes to getting takedowns. Dustin Poirier has very stiff hips, so mainly what he did was attack the single leg and the double leg and work him that way. Poirier did have a few good scrambles in him, and he had a few good moments, but even on the feet, man, it was kind of iffy. Just that Islam's takedown threat is just so much on the feet. You're always wondering, when will he shoot? And Poirier, he wasn't as active. One thing about Poirier that I did like was his attitude for this fight. There was times where he would stuff a takedown from Islam and he would scream in his face, like, let's go, or like, get off of me. Islam would have him in a tight clinch and Poirier would just push him off and just scream at him. And I felt that was pretty badass from Poirier. And if I'm being honest, I think with the way Dustin Poirier fought in this fight, I think that is his last fight in the UFC. It really felt like he was giving it his all. I think he was pouring all of his emotions into this fight. I think he took everything and pretty much put it on the line to fight Islam Makhachev for the belt. And if he didn't win, I think he knew he was probably done. Again, when have we ever seen Poirier scream and be so emotional whenever he stuffs a takedown? Not really. He was putting every amount of emotion into this fight versus Islam. And I think him losing just takes it all out of him. So if I am going to give a prediction on how Poirier ends his career, this was his last one in my opinion. Thank you, Dustin Poirier. I think you went out on your shield in this one. You had a hell of a performance, man. It just sucks. Islam is a Dagestani crotch sniffer, man. It just, you can't beat these guys, man. These guys don't want to stand and bang. They want to get your back and get you in full guard, half guard, and just hold you down for 5 rounds. That's their method of victory. They love all that grappling shit. And that's just how Islam fights. Now, I do think he's a good striker as well, but he's going to beat you by grappling. He took down Poirier every single round of this fight, I believe. He had his back for almost the entirety of the 1st round. We know this. Islam is an elite grappler. He actually ended up breaking Poirier's nose with a headbutt. So, Islam, you're also a cheater, if I have to say so. How dare you cheat and break Poirier's nose with a headbutt? It happens. It's MMA. And honestly, who knows? Maybe Poirier wins this fight in the 5th round with a nice, clean, healthy nose that isn't broken by a big headbutt from Islam. That's all I'm trying to say. Islam might be a little bit dirty in the octagon, not even counting the staph infection, but it's MMA. It happens. Headbutts happen. Head clashes happens. It's just unfortunate for Poirier that headbutt broke his nose. It is what it is. Islam would have won anyways. Doesn't really matter. Again, it sucks for Dustin. Islam wins. He wants to fight at 170 next. No, not yet. Maybe, I don't know what you do with Islam right now. He could fight at 170. You could keep him at 155. I don't care what you do with him. So there you guys go. That's my full recap for UFC 302. This card was not that good. It was pretty mid. It was a pretty less than average card, especially for a pay-per-view. This one kind of sucked. It is what it is. It happens. We're going to have stinky pay-per-view cards from time to time, but you know what? I still overall enjoyed the card. I enjoyed live streaming it. I had a great time. So thank you guys who were in my live stream for this. You guys made shit go around. Appreciate y'all so much. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications. I'll see y'all next week. I'm out of here.